Hello, this is John, and I woke up this morning as the Lord put into my heart and mind to ask the question, what do the United States blacks of today think of Malcolm X? So I decided to search that, and I found a large majority of black Americans have favorable opinions of Malcolm X 50 years after his murder, though most reject black separatism. And then we see down here by YouGov today, Malcolm X remembered favorably by blacks, but not by whites. And as we listen to the words of Malcolm X himself, you're going to probably want to add a political party and take off the S here and make it by white, and you figure out what political party that would be. Just for your understanding, as of 2022, the American black population was 41,570,000. And of course, you must understand that that population of black Americans would be much greater had not, since 1973, more than 19 million black babies have been aborted. That is just a terrible, horrific truth. Now let's hear some of the words from Malcolm X.
There are many whites who are trying to solve the problem, but you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox, and a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see the wolf coming. You know what he's up to, but the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling and take him for a friend.
Many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chop in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that...
I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro.
On the other hand, I think one could point to a large number of whites who have struggled for civil rights, for equality, and have got little or nothing out of it. Other than quite a few bruises.
Give me an example.
Well, the large number of white students who have gone into the South, for example, working for SNCC and other organizations.
Not working for SNCC or other organizations, but working for the white political machines who benefit by the voting efforts of Negroes.
Okay. Today, you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. They see that the whites are so evenly divided that every time they vote, the race is so close they have to go back and count the votes all over again. And which means that any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first, and they put you last. Because you're a chump. A political chump. In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republican. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you bash controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you, because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race. And what kind of alibi do they come up with? They try and pass the buck to the Dixiecrats. Now, back during the days when you were blind, deaf, and dumb, ignorant, politically immature, naturally you went along with that. But today, as your eyes come open and you develop political maturity, you're able to see and think for yourself. And you can see that a Dixiecrat is nothing but a Democrat in disguise. You look at the structure of the government that controls this country. It's controlled by 16 senatorial committees and 20 congressional committees. Of the 16 senatorial committees that run the government, 10 of them are in the hands of Southern segregationists. Of the 20 congressional committees that run the government, 12 of them are in the hands of Southern segregationists.
Simply search this: black communities overrun by migrants, and ask yourself the question, which political party was in charge of this great influx of migrants into the inner cities where black communities are getting hurt due to housing costs, rent, food, everything that goes with the cost of living raising. I'm just going to add a short clip of one meeting, but if you search, it's all across America, and the majority of these migrants that are coming in, millions of them, are being inserted into black communities throughout the United States of America. And that is not helping your economic situation.
Deep emotional wounds coming to the surface.
As black people who have been hurt continuously by the city and country it loves, it ain't our responsibility to take care of everybody else.
And anger.
We don't want to have to recall anybody. We don't want to have to protest anybody, but we are not going to be ignored, Brandon. Mayor Johnson.
Many in Chicago's black community and the city council speaking out against spending $51 million to house migrants, asking when will the help for them finally become a reality.
And it cannot be put on the backs of the residents of Chicago without showing them that they're getting something out of this.
Mayor Brandon Johnson, presiding over his second full city council meeting, had to ask for calm more than once.
Will the Sergeant of Arms please restore some order?
Police also intervening at one point to allow the meeting to proceed. Ultimately, the measure passed with 34 votes. Many who voted to approve the money, like 49th Ward Alderwoman Maria Hadden, call this an immediate crisis that needs attention. But, she says, so do concerns of the city's black residents.
Why are black people in Chicago and some communities so angry? Why is all this kind of anti-immigrant sentiment coming up? And I want to explain to folks, it's because if we cared as much about black people and had over the decades as we do about everyone else, we wouldn't be here.
But the money from a 2021 budget surplus will only last 1 month. Many alderpeople say it's time for a long-term plan and some state and federal help. With that, should taxpayers be concerned?
I think we should all be concerned anytime we're having to utilize this level of resources on a temporary situation, especially with not a real sight of federal support coming.
Hours after the meeting, Mayor Brandon Johnson offered no specifics.
Now, what I would like to do is go back 8 years while Ben Carson was at the Republican presidential debate, for he was striving to become the President of the United States. And here at the debate forum, they're going by alphabetical order. And so he was next to be called according to the alphabetical order of his last name, Carson. So he was out there waiting to go on stage, and they completely forgot him and bypassed him. And one man saw the awkwardness of Ben Carson standing there alone and decided to step up and stand beside him. Let's roll this clip and you'll see what happens.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
So you clearly see Carson is frozen. Cruz says, okay, sure, I'll go ahead. Carson still continues to stand there. Nothing happens. Now, I just want to point this out. There's the floor director telling the neurosurgeon, go, you need to go on the set. Carson says, no, I'm okay, I'm good, I'll just stay here. The floor director says, fine. And then we see Donald Trump come around the corner. He too decides, you know what? I don't need to go on set. And there you have Rubio with a smile on his face, lapping the both of them. There's clearly a traffic block here. Here you've got Jeb Bush talking once again to the floor director saying, what's going on? Why aren't they going on stage? He says, I don't know. He's getting frustrated and says, I don't care. I'm going to pass the two of them too. He gives him a slap on the shoulder, makes that cringing face. He too goes on. Meanwhile, you can only imagine working in TV what's going on in the control room. People are panicking because these two won't make a move. So now these two moderators are ready to get the debate started. But have a look, Michael. They haven't noticed that 3 of their 7 candidates are not on the stage. So then they say, hey guys, if you're backstage, maybe you'd like to join us. This continues for another awkward few seconds. And then finally, Ben Carson makes a move. Donald Trump still debating. Do I want to participate in the debate? Oh, sure, it'll be huge. I'll come out. So he's still waiting there. At this stage, Chris Christie says, you know what? Where's Governor Kasich? No one has mentioned the Ohio governor. And at that stage, they realize they've made a mistake, and Kasich eventually makes his way out. This, in my experience, I've never seen anything like this, Michael, where just getting the candidates on the set was such a tremendous achievement.
Now, when something like that happens, as Donald Trump came out and stood next to Ben Carson, he recalled that, and he mentioned it in the speech, which I'm going to play a little bit of, but I'll put a link to the full speech down in the description. And it just shows the character of Trump, him coming out and saw that Ben was in an awkward position and that he'd come and give him just some support by being right there next to him. So here's what Ben Carson had to say on October 21st, 2024.
Recognize that in the last election, 20 million evangelical Christians did not vote. And most of the close elections in the swing states were determined by thousands of votes, not millions of votes. Think about the power that exists in the people who believe in God. We don't have to be victims. We don't have to complain. We can absolutely control the direction of our nation, but we have to get involved to do it and recognize that we have a responsibility. Now, I know there are a lot of Christians who say, both sides are corrupt, and I don't want to be involved in a corrupt system. I don't want to have to choose between the lesser of two evils. Well, unless Jesus Christ is on the ballot, you're always choosing between the lesser of two evils. And lastly, I just want to say, you know, when I was running for president against Donald J. Trump, at one of the debates, when we were being announced, I couldn't hear my name. All the other candidates walked past me. He came and stood beside me until they rectified the situation. He stood beside me at a time of confusion, and I guarantee you he will stand beside you and the United States of America in this time.
Now, this last clip is when Donald Trump, back in 1999, on January 14th, came out in a snowstorm to support Jesse Jackson, to give him free space on Wall Street for the push for the Rainbow Coalition. Here is what Donald Trump had to say, and much of the news media do not want you to see this clip.
But he did have an expression last year, and I was just telling Roger, he had an expression last year, the wall on wall must fall. And you haven't used it today, and I'm very disappointed in this, Jesse, because I thought it was a great expression. And I heard the expression about 14 times, and then he came to me at the end of the session, and he said, listen, I want some office space in your building on Wall Street, because the wall on wall will fall. And I said, it's okay, Jesse, I'll make a good deal with you. I'll get you some space. You'll pay about $40 a foot. And he said, no, I don't want to pay 40. I said, how about 30? No. It was the cheapest deal I ever made in the history of 40 Wall Street. Is that right? He got it for nothing. He's a very tough negotiator. We know that, right? Nah, he's a terrific guy. We love him, and I'm here for him. And the snow came, and I said, gee, nobody's going to show up, and look at this place, it's packed. I do want to say a couple of things. First of all, where's Percy? Oh, okay. I thought you left, Percy. That would have been terrible. I get up and you leave. I would have been insulted. But, you know, he's been a special friend of mine for 25 years, for a long time. And Percy was the borough president of Manhattan when I was really starting out, and he helped me so much on the Commodore Hotel, which he mentioned before, which became the Grand Hyatt, and so many other things. And he is really, and I listened to him speak, and I said to Roger and Roy, listen to those tones, listen to that voice. Have you heard that before, by the way? What a beautiful tone, and what a beautiful man, and we love him. You really were a big help to me right at the beginning, and I really appreciate it, and you've done some great jobs. So I just want to sort of acknowledge that. Now, another couple, I'm sitting here with this man, Roy. If you want to borrow money, but with him you have to pay it back. That's the best. But if you want to borrow money on Wall Street, you go see Roy, because there's nobody like him at Goldman Sachs. And if you do want to run for president, you see this guy. You're 3-0. And when he left Bush, you know what happened to Bush's last campaign, folks? It wasn't very pretty. And now we have President Clinton, who's coming tonight. And I guess you like President Clinton very much, right, Jesse? Huh? Stand up and say it, Jesse. Well, I'll just say a few words. I mean, Wall Street and New York City and this whole region is doing unbelievably well. I'm building a job on the West Side, which is the largest job ever approved by the New York City Planning Commission. You see it going up along the West Side Highway. It's almost 10 million square feet. It's 18 buildings, and it's really going to be something. We're building a building that you probably heard of recently. It's the tallest residential tower anywhere in the world. It's 90 stories. People aren't happy about the fact that I'm building a 90-story building in New York City, but it's an as-of-right. It's called an as-of-right building, meaning you can do it by zoning, and it's going to be truly magnificent, right directly across from the United Nations. We just bought the General Motors building. We just completed Trump International Hotel and Tower, which just yesterday got the Mobile 5-star award. Only 4 in the country got it for its whatever it is, and it's been a tremendous success. We're doing a lot of other things, and I will tell you, a large percentage of the people, and especially in construction, that are building these great jobs are black and minorities, and I'm very proud of it. We have close to 25%, and I think the number's going up, and they do a great job. There are no better builders than we have in New York, and a big percentage of that is black and minority folks. So I just want to thank everybody in the room for being here. I look forward to some questions. And then I don't know how we're ever going to leave this building today, because if you look outside, it is terrible. But we'll figure a way. There's always a way. And thank you, Jesse, and congratulations.
And this, of course, you can look up on your own. As he mentioned, 25% of people employed to build his buildings were black or minority. And in the United States of America, according to the latest U.S. Census data, the blacks or African American population in the United States represents around 13.6 of the total population. You can search that for yourself. And in closing, I would like to ask you to do this. Simply go to Google and search Seek Truth Daily, or simply type Seek the Truth Daily. Till my next video, may God be with you, and may Jesus Christ say a prayer unto our Heavenly Father for you.